So this is actually the second upload of the day. I posted a video earlier where we got our first look at Xbox Series X gameplay of MLB 21, but today we have a feature premiere to talk about. This one is all about the ball player. So now in MLB 21, your ball player is going to be your created player for both Diamond Dynasty and Road to the Show. We got a lot of information about that. But before we jump into that information, we did get a new legend reveal. Roll it! Kirby Puckett, he is making his way into MLB The Show 21. Kirby's another cool legend to have in the mix of everybody. He's kind of similar to Grady Sizemore to me in the way that I think he'll be a fun card to use. I think it's nice that he's in the game, but once some of these big outfield goons start coming out, I can't really see Kirby Puckett lasting in that many starting lineups. Not every legend has to be an endgame card. It's cool to just have these guys in the game and be able to use them, so Kirby, cool with it. So the first thing we're going to talk about in terms of this ball player stuff is actually loadouts. I ain't gonna lie, this was a little bit confusing when I watched it, so I'm gonna play the clip and then I'll try my best to explain it in simpler terms, but no guarantees I'm gonna make it make sense because I'm still a little confused.
So your loadout is made up of a few different items. You've got your archetype item, which designates where you're going to excel on the field. The archetype item will have the ability to have perks slotted into it. Perks are, additional attribute bumps in order to fine-tune and customize your ball player to make sure they excel. And then all of your equipment options, a lot of things that our fans are used to. And by the different combinations of getting these things in and set up in a loadout, you can set up multiple loadouts for basically making sure your ball player can do it all. Now, the beauty of this is in Road to the Show, as you're rolling forward with your two-way player, you can have a loadout for pitching. You can have your loadout for your position play. If you want to have a loadout set up for hitting or whatnot, you can do all of that. And then before you go into a game, you select a loadout that you want to use. You use that loadout for the duration of the game and you move on. And the same thing applies for Diamond Dynasty. The beauty of it in Diamond Dynasty is because you're so much more open with flexibility and position play, is that you can set one up for first base, center field, catching, whatever it may be. And then when you go to play a game in Diamond Dynasty, again, you select that loadout for the entirety of that game, and you're set. And you can play in that position. You can play well. I really think the flexibility that the loadout system gives the player really does allow the player to take their ball player and then do it all.
So this is a pretty big change to Road to Show. So I'm no longer trying to get 99 in every category. I'm trying to take and create loadouts for very specific tasks, right? Like if I'm pitching, if I want to be a power pitcher, a finesse pitcher, or if I'm in the field. So I might have a different loadout for a shortstop as I would for a center field, or even two different loadouts for shortstop, depending upon how I want to play the game that day. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So how the changes to attributes and whatnot have worked in this year is rather than get everything to 99, through training and through playing the game, you'll be able to get all of your what we call base attributes up to 50. From 50, beyond that, that's where you really impact those stats with your loadouts and your archetype items. As you use an archetype item, there are attached programs. You progress in these programs to get better archetype items, and then obviously the better the archetype item, the more attributes or the more variety in attributes that you get. And that's how you really start to use these loadouts and this item progression to really hone your player in, to specialize and make your ball player do exactly what you want them to do.
Okay, so like I said, that may be confusing, but here's what I'm basically understanding. Think about it as like a create a class in Call of Duty. They said your loadout is going to consist of an archetype, so I would compare that to maybe the weapon you're using in Call of Duty. And then after that, you add perks to that archetype to increase other stats. So kind of similar to Call of Duty. You add perks to your loadout to try to give you other little boosts or advantages. And you can make multiple different loadouts. You can basically get the exact type of model of player you're going for. And they said one thing in there about you can get your attributes up to 50, and then after 50, you start putting the loadouts and archetypes on to try to make your guy improve even more. Like I said, I may be explaining this wrong, but that's the way I'm understanding it. Maybe when we get our hands on the actual ball player experience, it'll make a little bit more sense in execution. But for me right now, it's still kind of weird. But if it's going the way I'm kind of understanding it, I think that's pretty cool. Now let's take a look at the programs for this ball player.
Yeah, absolutely. So programs are super exciting. They consist of two separate parts. The first part is your reward track, which oddly enough is your rewards. And so as you progress your program, you'll get certain rewards at certain levels. The other part of it is how you progress your program. And right now for the archetype item programs, we're using missions. Missions can be accomplished in either Road to the Show or Diamond Dynasty. And how we're going about it this year is it's a lot of things that you'll organically finish as you play the game. So whether it's plate appearances or getting on base, there's a lot of different tasks like that you can go ahead and do. You'll complete these missions, you get points for this program, and then you get through that reward path to unlock new items, more programs, and progress your ball player.
Oh, so I'm not only just hunting stats, playing regular games and Road to the Show. I'm going to be trying to do different player programs to get more archetype items to make my guy stronger.
Yeah, exactly. And so like these archetype item programs, right? You can progress those in either Road to the Show or Diamond Dynasty. And as you get the progression, you get a lot of different things. You get new archetype items, you'll get perk packs, general experience or stubs. There's a lot of different reward tracks. Anybody who has played and used programs before in the past, it would be very familiar. But for the Road to the Show user, now we have that in Road to the Show. In that line of progression, and it really does just allow the player to experiment, push forward, and progress how they want.
So to me, that's pretty self-explanatory. You just do your missions, you get rewarded, basically just like a program in Diamond Dynasty, and the more missions you complete, the more rewards you get, and then the higher up you can level up your player. Now, since you can use your creative player in both Diamond Dynasty and Road to the Show, I want to focus on this thing right here. This says use your creative player in all these online modes, and it includes Battle Royale. Now, I'm not going to read too much into that right now, just because we don't really know. That could just be like something they forgot to edit out or something like that, but I don't really see how the creative player could make his way into Battle Royale unless there's like a designated round for that. I don't know if I necessarily want creative player being in Battle Royale, but it is something to point out. Maybe we'll find out more about that in the DD stream, or maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe it was a mistake. I don't know. So that's the information we got for the actual ball player and how it can connect to both Road to the Show and Diamond Dynasty. Now let's focus on more of the Road to the Show specific features. And they've got this new thing. It's basically a podcast. As you're going through your Road to the Show career with your player, you're gonna get updates from this pre-recorded podcast that they've made specifically for Road to the Show, and they're gonna be talking about what you've been doing around the league and other news around the league. I'll play for you a clip right here.
This is the story that I am all about lately. The organization drafted him higher than he was projected to go, and they seem to believe that he could be a two-way player for them. But not everybody agrees. I've got the mayor, Sean Casey, with me. Sean, you're not sold on this idea. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I'm not sold on it because I think baseball is such a tough sport. And, when you first get drafted, maybe you come out of high school or you come out of college, right? I mean, it's easy to be a two-way player. But when you get into professional baseball, it's so specialized. The pitchers are at another level, the hitters are at another level, and the work that goes into that one side of the game, there's so much that goes into it. So for a player to come into pro ball and try and be a two-way player, that's going to be a really tough thing to do, and not many people have had a ton of success at that.
And the refinement's only one aspect of it. There's also the physical stamina that goes into playing a professional season, coming from college or high school where you've got a few days off between games. It's very grueling in the pro ranks.
Well, it's the grueling part about professional baseball. In the minors, you're playing 144 games. In the big leagues, you're paying 162. The mental part of that, having to play night in and night out, is so taxing and so demanding. So to do that mental side of it two ways, I mean, for me, going back as a hitter, it would almost have been impossible for me to do that.
Looking good, looking good. So how extensive is this feature, Ben?
Well, we made a lot of different episodes to cover a lot of possibilities. When we started planning, I was only expecting we'd produce about 50 to 75 episodes. And in the end, we made 180 episodes that could come up over the course of your Road to the Show career. You won't see all of those within one Road to the Show. It is dynamic based on your choices. It takes you from being a newly drafted young player to being a breakout star at the major league level.
All right, so we just saw Cliff Floyd. We already saw Sean Casey, Jim Callis, Ben's in there, and our friend Roflo. But we aren't telling you about everybody. You just have to play the game. We don't want to spoil it. There's a lot more to come.
Honestly, I think that's kind of sick. Now, just a heads up, to get the actual video portion of that is only going to be on next-gen consoles. The audio for it will still be on PS4 and Xbox One, but if you want the video, gotta have a next-gen console. And the last thing to touch on here is the two-way player aspect in Road to the Show. I'm going to go ahead and let the clip play for this one.
Yeah, so the way it works with the new narrative feature, your player as a prospect gets introduced as a multi-talented prospect who can do a lot of things, and the team is, interested in taking a look at you as a two-way player, but you do not have to do that. If you're only interested in playing the game traditionally as a pitcher, starting pitcher, closing pitcher, or position player, you can do that. The team takes a quick look at you and then you say, I'd really rather do it this way. You do what you want. If you're interested in being a two-way player, there are actually a number of different designations for different balances of play to get exactly the balance you're looking for.
Oh, so I'm not forced into any one role, but that option is there. If you want to be the next Shohei Ohtani, you can do that.
Exactly. You're going to pitch a game and you're going to play a couple games in the field, and right away the manager's going to come and say, okay, what do you think of this? Let's say you want to play like Ohtani. I want to be in the starting rotation, and then in between my starts, I want to play as a position player and as a DH. You can do it that way. You're going to have a balance of play that's fairly even. Let's say you want to play mostly as a position player. You like to do a little pitching, but just a little bit. You tell the manager that, and now you can have a pitching start just every once in a while. Maybe every couple weeks you start a game. Or if you want to pitch even a little bit less than that, I just want to do a little bit of pitching. You'd be a relief pitcher. Just every once in a while, you'd make a short relief appearance. So most of your play, you're going to get the opportunity to experience the two-way play and also the narrative that's pretty exciting that goes along with it being a two-way player, because in our narrative feature, the community's reacting to that. If you try it for a while and you don't like it, your agent or the manager is actually going to check back after several weeks and then check back a few weeks later. So you know what? I tried it. I don't think it's really for me. I want to do it this way now. So there's definitely some choices in there you can make, and make sure you land in playing Road to the Show the way you want to.
Honestly, that's pretty cool. I think that's a cool way to introduce it. You don't have to be a two-way player if you don't want to. You can change from a starter to a reliever and have a bunch of different appearances. So overall, that's cool. I still have a couple questions on the Diamond Dynasty front. I have my questions about how energy is going to work with your ball player if you keep them in your rotation and you want to hit with them, and a bunch of small little details. So I'm going to wait more for the Diamond Dynasty stream to let those questions be answered, if they will be. But overall, what's your thoughts on the ball player? Do you like it? Do you think it's too confusing? Honestly, I think it's a good move for them to be experimenting with stuff like this and trying to evolve the mode, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, Road to the Show has been pretty stale for a while. So we just got to see how it works out when the game actually drops. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.